welcome to another episode of Bricking It. There has been a gap in the series, and that's because I've just been doing other stuff. And this episode is going to be called The Factory / Warehouse. Now, I'm leaving it ambiguous for a reason. I haven't decided what exactly it's going to be. And most of these buildings were fairly similar in terms of overall aesthetic anyway. So the premise is that I'm trying to build unique buildings, and the way I'm going to do that is to start with is by doing the warehouse. Now it might seem a bit weird doing train stuff and then just moving straight from trains into a warehouse. Why not a station or a roundhouse or something like that? And it's just like, well, a warehouse I can always build in what's called low relief. It's actually a model railroading or model railway term, where I do a side of the building and maybe a couple of feet behind it, so that it's enough to give the building aesthetic and some roof detail and maybe a bit of that sort of stuff, but it's not the full building. I don't have to have a whole built. I can do the front, like in Lego terms, maybe 5 studs, but the rest is all just backscene and stuff like that. So I don't have to do the full building to get the full effect. So I can build it in low relief, and then maybe build another bit, and the opposite side in low relief. I then just build the middle bit and then just combine it all together. And this is how it really started. Is that I've done quite a lot of research about warehouses and that sort of stuff, about the aesthetics, how things look, how things combine as well, because there's quite a lot of variance in warehouses, as shocking as it may seem. So you've got just flat, flush-fronted warehouse where everything's like one uniform brick wall. You've got some where there's actually support columns that are coming out of it. You've got some where the support columns coming out and the windows are recessed. You've got some where you've got a flat brick wall, but there's a recess where the window is, sort of around the window, and then you've got a window recess as well. So there's a recess within a recess. You've got some where there's a column and there's an outer layer of brick which is sort of just behind the column, but then the window and all the other bricks are behind again. So you've got like a double recess again, but it's more focused on the entire wall. And then you've got all the differences in windows and window forms. Is it all these small windows? Is it some small windows and then large windows? Is it this? Is it that? Is it wider? Is it smaller? Literally, you could create a random warehouse generator or random factory generator and put in all these different styles and come up with completely different buildings. And you'd probably have to spend some time searching for more of the rare ones, but you could probably just find them just as easily in photographs and sort of say, well, I've got this, 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 and this. And eventually you'll find a factory. It might not be as big as you'd thought it would be, but you'll probably find a factory with that sort of architecture and design. So I've spent, not continuously, but I spent like 5 to 10 minutes looking at random bits and pieces and piecing it slowly together. So that's sort of why this project isn't as far along as some people may think, because although it's freelanced, I want it to be believable. And obviously the method of construction as well, that's taking some time. So I'm actually going to show off what I've got so far, and Glenn Holland's already seen this from Streamline Bricks, or better known as the one of the half of the Brick Mill Railroader team. But he hasn't seen it this complete or to this level of detail yet. So this is what I've been working on, and this is actually a side of the warehouse, and it's actually using a technique that I learnt off, I think it's Nature's Mocks on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Instagram. And everything you see here are, if I can get my fingers right, 1x2 dark red plates. So all you see in this sort of section of wall here are dark red 1x2 plates with the exception of anything for the window. So the only exception so far is the one here with the light grey. I have actually found some 1x1 plates go in there. So there's one dark red and one regular red. So the red's just like to see how the colours compare. At this sort of size, it is starting to flex a bit. It's not very because it's only one sort of layer thick. It is a bit sort of flexible, so you can sort of do that. So obviously once it's fixed in and got a second wall behind it, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Yeah, this is just sort of like a test piece, you know, and you know, as a test piece, things are prone to change. So this is the original bit. It's actually sort of started off that bit being the original bit, and it was just like a flat wall, and then I sort of added that piece, and I sort of added the two windows to sort of see what sort of spacing I should get. And originally it was like an 8 stud gap, and I sort of looked at it and looked at a minifigure next to it and sort of went, that's not quite right. So I've narrowed it down to 6, and it's got just this nice aesthetic where the middle band is 6, but the window sort of apertures are 6 as well. So there's this 4 stud gap. So effectively it's 6, 6, and then 6 again. But you've obviously got the 1 stud overlays in the centre. The sort of distance between them is quite nicely spaced as well, and it actually is a mirror. So you actually have a section there and another section there, and they're actually identical. So you have a gap there to the main bulk of the window of 3 studs. You have a 4 stud wide window aperture. Then you've got 6 studs in the middle, which you can split into 3, I should point out. Then you've got another 4 stud wide window aperture. Then you've got another 3 stud bit in right next to the column. So you've got this really nice sort of mirrored effects, and it actually brings it out to a really nice rounded total of like the sort of 12 studs for the actual bricks, or like the actual wall sections, and then you've obviously got the extra 8 studs here, so it rounds it out to a nice total of 20. So you've got that for going for it as well. And this sort of design is actually quite easy to modify. So say for example I wanted to add a door here. Well, all I have to do is take out that section of plates and maybe the view around it to actually create the thing. Do the sort of like door, and then put the plates back in if they need to just space anything underneath, and then just set it up, and then maybe add some handrails if I'd needed to add a bit of effect, and maybe modify this bit with a slight canopy, or maybe a light. So I could modify this slightly with maybe a clip, and then possibly use the paint roller along with a little transclear minifig head or something like that, just to get a little light fitting and just add a bit of variety to the side. So obviously the external looks quite nice. I've been sort of contemplating the colours as well, because that's a big thing, is that being a dark red building, I don't want to then overdo the dark colours with like the windows and the doors and the highlights. I want to try and get those slightly different, so that it's you know, there's that nice contrast which you do find in regular buildings. You don't want them too dark and you don't want it too light. So I'm actually going to go for this colouring here. So you've got a light grey base, and then you've got this light grey, bluish light grey I should say, arch over the top. So it adds a nice sort of light to it. So it's different to the white, and it's different to the dark red, and it sort of adds this nice almost gradient, if you like, between having a pure white and having a colour, which the dark red looks alright maybe in video, but when you look at it in real life, it doesn't look quite as good. And the other thing to bear in mind is this is just this section. Once you've got, say, another floor above or maybe below, I haven't decided yet, and then you're adding in more of these window sections and more, and making it bigger and grander and that sort of stuff, all this dark colour, if you went for the dark colour, you then couldn't change it again later. because you'd have to literally just tear the building into really small assemblies just to get this out. So obviously selecting the right colour is of paramount importance. There are a few other bits and tips and tricks with this wall which I can go into as well. So if I flip it round, obviously this is not finalised, this is just sort of like the raw sort of test bed, but you can sort of see all the plates that are coming out the back, because I don't own any many 1x1s. You can actually sort of see that here there is actually a reasonable gap. I'll just bring it close to the camera, so I'll see there's a bigger gap there than there is here. You can also see there's actually a 2 stud recess as well in the columns. There's a very good reason for that. So for the warehouse, although obviously I want to do the exterior, but I kind of want to do the interior as well. So I can then use this column to actually support the innards. So I can actually do support columns in these recesses, and then use those along with plates and bricks and everything else to actually create an internal support structure for the floors above, and a few other bits and pieces. The walls themselves I can actually split up. Obviously that would take quite a lot of 1x1 plates, so probably not. But what I can do is split up the wall sections from the columns, or create it so it's a wall section and maybe the face of a column, and then it just slots in and then it hides, because obviously with the joins as they are, so you've obviously got the column beam protruding, this column actually overlaps like the layer of plates behind it. So I could actually layer the plates behind and then add this column, and then this just fits over that, and then you won't actually know it's there, because obviously as a plate would go in, you don't see the other bit of it because it's hidden by the plates here. So obviously you get a nice effect where I can actually split this up into quite easy to manage wall sections and then just slot them in as required. And it also means doing it in a modular approach, that should I wish to expand it, or should I wish to shrink it, I can literally just take out a wall section and bunch up the end. So obviously I've still got some thoughts and planning to do with, especially with the corners as well. The corners are probably going to be quite difficult to do on this, but obviously there's quite a lot to consider as well. So obviously this is sort of like a really earlier version, and there's obviously quite a lot to do, and there's quite a lot of pieces to order as well, because I'm missing, if I flip this around so make it easier, I'm missing the 1x1 dark red plates. I also need tan arch bricks. That's the other thing, interior. So the interior is going to be tan, so I need tan arch bricks, and a few other bits and pieces. And obviously I need to get some more of these 2x2 jumper tiles, so I can actually do the windowsill, or sort of like the window base. But then I also need to get a load of tan, so I can actually do the interior facade as well. So the reason why I'm going for tan is that a lot of factories or that sort of stuff wouldn't go for a white, from what I've seen, but would go for like this sort of like creamy colour, or sort of lightish, very pale light brown, mixed with white, which would get the sort of like tan colour. And the tan colour itself, because I actually have one there, kind of looks quite nice as a sort of mixture, but I don't think it'd suit the exterior to have this tan colour. So the tan colour is actually going to be used on the inside. So this sort of gap here between these window frames, obviously once you change these sticking out 1x2s to 1x1s, means you can actually stick 1x6x5 panel pieces in here, and then you can actually just put a load of bricks at the base, and then just link it all together, and then you just put the panels on top, and then just fill it in, and then put window arches on top again, because the windows are actually only held in at the bottom, so another layer of arch bricks on the inside actually holds these in quite nicely and provides a bit of resistance. So yeah, that's the sort of like the real life sort of example that I've currently got built, and I did show this off on Instagram when I sorted them, This is a 3 litre reusable box. I'll just confirm that. Yep, so we've got 3 litre reusable box. Says so right there, 3 litre capacity. And this was full pretty much to the brim here of these 1x2 dark red plates. And all of this, so this sort of like 2 inch to 2 inch gap that's now filled there, has actually just gone into this. Just this section alone. So you can sort of see that this construction is really parts intensive, but it really creates this really nice brickwork effect. And you can't really see it in videos, you've got to see it in photos. But it creates this really nice brickwork effect, which you can't really achieve any other way than being this parts intensive sort of plate method. In addition to the plates I have in that tub, there's actually some wall sections somewhere. I don't know where they are. Oh, here we are. So some people have seen these before. These are actually done. These are actually done, or one of which was actually done at the Black Country Brick Show. Actually was on guard duty or monitoring duty. I sort of went, while I'm here, I might as well actually do something useful. So I took some of the 1x2 plates and actually built one of these. And then when I got home, I built a second one, and then I built a little stubby one because I actually ran out after that point. So I can obviously, those will actually complement the other bits, plates I've got, and then obviously they can go into the warehouse. So obviously there's quite a lot of resources on the internet for warehousing and factories and that sort of stuff. I mean, I do refer to it as a warehouse, but it could be either. I've not yet decided. So obviously if you're interested in factories and warehousing and that sort of stuff, first point of call, and I should always say this, and I always will say this, if you're trying to do something that is close to realistic or based off something in real life, is look for photos. You can't beat photos for evidence. Obviously, they can be manipulated. Obviously, get plenty of photos, and obviously you've got a quite good variety as well. So warehousing doesn't need as many windows, but obviously you do need light in there to see what goods you've got. Whereas a factory would have bigger windows, so the worker could actually see what they were doing, and that sort of stuff, and so on and so forth. So obviously, there's choices to be made if you're going to go down the route of custom building. If you're doing the real life one, you've already got your template. You just need to convert that into Lego form. Whereas if you're free building, you've got to sort of go, what design aesthetic am I going for, and then work it back from that. So one thing I haven't discussed is size. So the warehouse, the scaling I sort of want is that there's going to be a platform, like a sort of like goods platform outside, and I want that to sort of fit 2 BMR boxcars, or maybe a boxcar and a flat car. So you're looking at about 90 scale foot for that, and then obviously you do want a little extra as well beyond that. So you're looking at maybe 9,500 foot scale foot. So fairly large in Lego terms, but not really that large in actual real life terms. And then for width as well, when I eventually complete it, I do want it to be maybe 2 to 3 tracks wide. So obviously you're looking there at about another, say, 35-40 foot. So you're looking sort of rough dimensions of, say, 40 foot sort of across, or then 100 foot long. Doesn't sound that much, but when you look at it in Lego terms, that's actually quite a lot of space that's going to be covered. And obviously I'm building 2 floors as a minimum, so get another floor, and then if I'm doing a 3rd floor on top of that again, it's soon sort of sort of gets bigger in height. And obviously as a warehouse or a factory, sort of like an older one as well, that sort of ceiling height within a floor can be really high. So you could be looking up to 10 to 12 foot for ceiling height as well, from floor height. So again, you're gaining more with that. So it just keeps it's sort of, you think it's all going to be nice and dinky, and then you just like, well, actually, you need that, that, and that, and that, and that, and they're just like, just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Um, so that's it for this episode of Bricking It. And obviously, if you've got any questions, please put them below, and I'll answer them the best I can. But no promises. So that's it from this episode, and I'll see you later. La 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 la. Oh, you can tell I'm gonna regret this later, and I certainly don't know what the hell's going on. So, roll the intro.